Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Tanmay Singh and I'm the co-founder of Faith Career, a boutique career management consulting firm. We specialize in helping students to study abroad and in India at highly ranked institutions. If you wish to study abroad or in India, please comment below or reach out to us via Instagram and we would be glad to help you. Today, we would be talking to Manas Pande, who recently took the GRE and scored 333 in the first attempt. He has kindly agreed to share his test prep strategies, recommendations, and more. Let's find out. Hi, Manas. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. To begin with, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Tanmay. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Manas. I did my undergrad in civil engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology. I'm currently working in the research communication field, and I've been with my current company for close to 2 years now. Uh, in the short term, I would like to do an MBA from a top tier academic institution, and then I would like to get into marketing.
Mhm. Okay, all right. Now, since you scored exceedingly well in the GRE, I'm pretty sure that our audience is eager to know your journey. Can you please tell us about it?
Sure. To provide context, like Tanmay said, I scored 333. I scored 163 in the verbal section and 170 on the quant section.
Mhm.
I started preparing for the GRE, I believe, around 1.5 months ago. And on average, I put in about 3 to 4 hours into prep per day.
Okay, sounds good. Manas, in how many attempts were you able to achieve 333 out of 340?
This was my first attempt.
Okay, sounds good. That's brilliant, you know. So which is exactly why I'm curious to know which resources did you essentially use to prepare for the GRE?
Okay, so I'll talk about the verbal and quant section separately. Uh, for the verbal section, when I took my first official mock, I realized that my vocabulary range wasn't up to par. And so I started with learning all the words on the in the Magoosh flashcards app. But I soon realized that only those 900 words weren't enough for the score I was targeting. Uh, so then I learned all the words on Greg Matt's list. He's a pretty popular YouTuber, and he's very much trusted within the GRE community. Uh, and then in addition to that, I also maintained my own separate list of words I came across in either the practice tests or the official tests. I believe the combination of these three resources really helped in getting me prepared for the verbal section of GRE in terms of my vocab skill. I was also simultaneously attempting previous year papers from the big book, which is a pretty much a compilation of all the 27 full-length past papers available. Uh, what I did was I solely did the verbal section in those tests because the difficulty of quant sections in this book is lower than that of the current questions that are asked. Uh, I believe the big book is very much helpful because it provides real past papers, and also because the RC passages in this book are much longer, they are much more dense. So what that does is that helps improve endurance as well as attention span. For the quant section, I did not do much prep because over all the practice tests I took, my quant scores were very high. They were at par with what I was aiming for. So I can't really provide any helpful input there. Finally, toward the end of my prep, I made sure that I had done all the official practice tests available. So that includes the PAR Prep 1, PAR Prep 2, PAR Prep plus 1, PAR Prep plus 2, and PAR Prep plus 3. And I made sure that I analyzed thoroughly my answers and the questions that I got wrong once I was done with the test. And I think all in all, that had me set for the real test.
Right.
I would say one thing though. I would say like there's one piece of advice I would like to give to people is that they should stay away from third-party questions or third-party material in general. There are some material, for instance, I think the 5LB book. I'm not entirely sure of the name. I think that is something people refer to a lot. But for when it comes to questions, I think people should stick to the official questions because
Right.
those questions won't at all give you an accurate representation of your preparedness.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Sounds good. And so now, Manas, both of us are aware that 333 is a very good score, right? And most people, most Indian test takers of GRE are not able to score as high as 333, right? Therefore, I'm curious to know what is it that you did differently in terms of preparation that sets you apart from an average test taker?
Um, I think it was my mindset to begin with. This was kind of a do or die situation for me because I had to get a high score. And so any time that I devoted to prep was completely filled with completely devoted attention and just full use of my time. Second, I only utilized official resources. And third, I think this might provide some context as to how I did well on the verbal section. My work primarily involves reading complex text, and that is
Right.
something I do for at least 4 to 5 hours a day. And so when I did start prep, I knew that I had a solid basis in terms of reading skill. Finally, Tanmay played a crucial role in keeping me motivated throughout my prep and in encouraging me to score high. Since I was aiming for a high score because I need high scholarships if I'm going abroad, Tanmay clearly conveyed the importance of getting a high score to meet my goal. Without his guidance and input, I don't think I would have been able to get 333, primarily because I would have been fine with something less than a 333.
That's
So
the
I have
Yeah, yeah. No,
huge
Manas,
grades instrumental work.
always happy to encourage my students. And at the same time, the thing is that schools abroad, for schools abroad, the GRE and IELTS or the TOEFL, for example, they are equalizers. They are the tests which sort of, equalize everything because let's say there is some other Asian applicant with the same, with similar credential like yours, but they have a lower TOEFL score or a lower IELTS score than you. In that case, you would be given preference because you had better English language skills and you were a better test taker when it comes to TOEFL or IELTS. And that's also where the GRE becomes important because if you remember that there's a section called as AWA, Analytical Writing Assessment, in the GRE, which again assesses how a test taker writes, right? So again, Indians definitely have an edge over other applicants from certain continents when it comes to their English language abilities. Sounds good. And schools abroad definitely value all of that. Perfect. And now, Manas, did you face any challenges while you were preparing for the GRE? And if yes, could you please tell us about them?
Yeah, so a major roadblock or a major impediment for me was time management. I faced difficulty in managing time in the verbal section. Since I was aiming for a high score, I knew that I couldn't afford skipping questions or getting questions wrong. So whenever I got stuck on a question, right, instead of realizing it early and moving on, I would just try to work my way out of the abyss, and that was completely not the right thing to do. So as my prep went on, that is something I realized, and I improved on that.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Now, so were you like, did you change or did you alter the plan in any way during your preparation?
Uh, Honestly, I didn't have an actual plan when I started prep.
Mhm.
I knew that I needed to first improve my vocab. So that is what I started with. Uh, Subsequently, I attempted practice tests, passed papers, and devised and improved my test taking strategy.
Mhm. Okay. Now, is I mean, So for a lot of people, sometimes they set their target score maybe less than 330, maybe more than 330, whatever the case may be. What I'm curious to know is that what target score had you set in mind before starting your preparation? And was it lower than the score you achieved, or were you going for the perfect score, which is 340?
Uh, my target score was actually 333 or something higher than a 333. That is what I started with, because even when I consulted you and I said, "Is would 333 or something higher than that? Would that be okay?" And you said, "Yeah, that would be perfectly fine." So that is what I started with. But
Yeah.
throughout prep, I also had this idea of course, achieving a perfect score.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, that is something else entirely, I guess. So yeah, when I saw 333 on the screen, right, 163 and 170, I was delighted. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Sounds good. Now, to be very frank with you, many schools in Canada and also the US and France as well, they really value the 333 and above scores, and that's because it tells them uh, that this particular student or a candidate would be successful in their graduate school studies, right? Because it is a way for them to understand if you would be able to manage or take care of the academic rigor of the challenging master's program. And the GRE or the GMAT are simply tests through which you can convey this information. Now, again, this is just one of the ways through which you can convey this information. The other way is to build an alternative transcript, and I can talk about that in some other video. But now moving on, um, Manas, what common traps should a test taker keep an eye out for while attempting quant and verbal section in the real test?
In my case, like I said, time management was a major issue in the verbal section. So I would advise to not get too fixated on one question or not too
Mm.
fixated on getting every question right, even if you're aiming for a very high score, as was I. Uh, and I would advise people to know when to skip questions or when to move on. Right? Say, in terms of when it comes to the quant section, there isn't a large margin for error, because if one is aiming for a high score, you can get maybe one or two questions wrong and still receive a perfect 170. But any more than that, and your score just dips. Right. So
Right,
again, I would say not make silly mistakes, such as selecting the wrong option, missing key information in the question, and so on. Uh, this also applies to the verbal section, in fact. Uh, for reading comprehension questions, sometimes one might interpret the question in another way than what the intention was of the test writer. And so that is something one must be wary of, I would say.
okay, sounds good. Now, Manas, since we are talking about the common traps, can you please share some useful tips and strategies with our viewers to ace the GRE?
Sure. So I would say start early, because if you don't start early, you might be pressed for time and something unexpected might happen on test day. So if you're starting early, you have that buffer, you have that extra room where you can go for another attempt and have a better chance at
Yeah.
getting into your dream college or goal college. I would say use only official resources, because, like I said earlier, the third party questions are not at all representative of what you would see on the real test. Some might be, but then again, that variation is very large, and you can't really assess your preparedness or predict your performance on the test day.
Right.
I would say do vocab prep, because GRE is very much vocab heavy, unlike the GMAT. In my case, I ended up learning, I think, close to 1100 or 1200 words. Uh, so yeah, that is something I would advise people to do. I would also advise people to kind of curate their own list. Uh, so in addition to Greg Math's list and the Magoosh flashcards, I also curated my own list, and I think that helped very well. And finally, create a test taking strategy. Right, know when to move on, know when to skip. Have a set plan of which questions you want to attempt first, second, third in the different sections.
Okay, sounds good. It's you raised a very good point, which was the first point as well, which is to start your preparation early, right? Now, there is another reason why starting one's preparation early for an international standardized test is necessary, and that's because needless to say, life is um, unpredictable to some extent, right? And therefore, what might happen is that on the test day you either are not able to do well because maybe you were sick, or maybe you had a huge argument at work the previous day or something else in a personal life. And along the similar lines, it might also happen that you take the test and you get the score which you wanted, which means that, for example, you received 333, which is exactly what you're targeting, but you felt that you have it in you to do much better, right? Which is exactly why, like one must factor in the time for a second GRE or GMAT attempt in their preparation time, right?
Mm.
And quite frankly, this is also why I encourage every study abroad aspirant to ensure that they start their application journey at least 18 to 20 months before starting of the program. So if the program, let's say, starts in fall 2025, which means August or September 2025, then they should start preparing and working on their applications, the different parts of it, from January or February of 2024, which is next year, right?
Mm.
Once you do that, you can have the peace of mind, and you can know that, okay, I have done my best, I'm constantly doing it, and I will ensure that I'm getting a great score in my international standardized tests, both IELTS or TOEFL or GRE or GMAT, right? So that's something that has to be done, because starting early has a lot of advantages. It also has advantages in terms of applications, because if you apply early, if you submit an application in the EA, which is the early action deadline, or in the round one deadline, then the chances of you receiving an offer letter as well as scholarship, like internal scholarships, monumentally increase. Now, this is again important because most I'm taking the liberty to assume that most people who might be watching this particular video would be Indian passport holders, right? And for us Indians, it's important to recognize and remember that sadly we are overrepresented in every admission school, right? And therefore, in order to beat the odds, you have to ensure that you are applying in R1 or in the earliest deadline available, and also scoring as high as one can in the GRE or the GMAT, and also in the English language proficiency tests such as IELTS or TOEFL. Now, scoring well in IELTS or TOEFL also becomes important because we are from a country where English is not spoken as the first language. English is our colonial tongue, and you know, and we also don't speak it. I mean, most people don't also speak it as their mother tongue in India. They might be very fluent at it, but they don't speak it as at home. So that's pretty much about it. So I think starting early has numerous advantages, and that's exactly one of the things that I constantly keep saying in my group as well, in my WhatsApp group as well. Now, Manas, moving on, what are some of the things that GRE aspirants should not do, both during their preparation and then later during the exam?
Uh, I would say if one is aiming for a high score, they shouldn't leave any stone unturned.
Yeah,
Uh, this particularly helps with confidence because on test day, if you come across a large roadblock or a major hurdle, you know that it's not a lack of skill that is causing that particular problem, and in that particular case, it would be easier for you to judge. Okay, this is a particularly difficult question, or because this is a particularly difficult question, this might be an experimental section, right? And so that helps with confidence, right? Being thorough with prep. Also, like I said earlier, having a test taking strategy is imperative. Uh, for instance, in my case, I started with sentence equivalence and text completion questions first in the verbal section, and then I moved on to the RCs. That
right.
is because when I was attempting my mock tests, I realized that if I started with RC questions, or if I didn't completely finish all the other types of questions, SE and TC questions first, I would tend to spend a lot of time on RC questions, right? I would go back and forth from the question to the passage and try to unnecessarily confirm uh, my answer, which is not at all favorable. Uh, so yeah, so having a test taking strategy, knowing when to move on, knowing when to skip, knowing the order of questions you want to attempt, that is, I think, very important, and it would help a lot on testing.
Mhm.
Finally, I believe staying motivated throughout prep is very important. And in my case, I had the help of Tanmay and Anshul, who regularly checked in on me and made sure that I was on track toward a high GRE score, the score we were targeting, which was 333 or greater. And I'm glad that happened. I didn't have to go for another reattempt.
Perfect. Sounds
Thanks
good.
a lot.
No, you're very welcome. Happy to help and happy to work as your accountability partner, which is something that I do with all of my students. Now, Manas, thank you so much for all of the inputs that you shared. There's one last question that I would want to ask you. Would you recommend that someone takes the GRE at the test center or at home?
I would say definitely go for the test center option. Yeah, I would definitely recommend going for the test center option.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time and all the strategies, tips, and advice that you shared. I'm pretty sure that our audience who are watching this video would benefit from it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. It would mean a lot. If you were able to derive value from this video, please ensure that you hit the like button and leave a comment if you have any questions pertaining to the GRE. I would also be leaving a link of our WhatsApp group, which is specific to GRE preparation, down in the comments below, in the description box below. Thank you once again, Manas, and I hope you have a great day ahead.
You too.